Hi guys, Ian from footballboots.co.uk here, and today we're going to break down the truth about what some of the world's top players are actually wearing on their feet during games. So, we'll start off with Luis Suarez, the Barcelona and Uruguay forward. Now, he was one of the players that Adidas could rely on to wear what they wanted him to. He started off, he would be wearing the F50s, boots like that, and he wore the prime knits for them. He even put on the prime knits for one game when Liverpool played against Manchester United. He wore the prime knits that Adidas wanted him to. Something of interest, when he was playing for Uruguay, he actually once wore a pair of rugby boots in a game. He wore the RS7s, real interesting choice. Perhaps he wanted a bit more protection on his feet. But anyway, when the X15 range came out, Suarez could be relied on wearing pretty much what Adidas wanted him to. He'd wear all the boots. Then the prime knit version came out and he wore those too. But as soon as the Speed of Light pack came out, Adidas wanted to put him into the Pure Chaos. You can see the marketing of Suarez with the Pure Chaos. But in fact, Suarez is actually wearing the 16.1, so he prefers the versions without the lace cover. Anyway, on to our next player in this list, and it is Gareth Bale. Now, Gareth Bale shot to prominence playing for Tottenham, and he was wearing the Adidas F50s regularly. He was really enjoying wearing those boots, so much so that they would influence the boots that he wore for a long time to come. Adidas really pushed him with their marketing when the Crazy Lights came out. That was his kind of first push to prominence with them. Adidas were really happy again when the 2015 F50s came out. Bale was there. He was the face of the red campaign. He only wore the red ones briefly, but he was also seen in the promotion for the green ones. He wore the green ones and the white ones too. The trouble really rolled around with the launch of the X15.1s. Those are those yellow ones. And Bale didn't really like the sole plate. So it was that FGAG sole plate with the X-Claw studs and the Exoframe outsole. A lot of players didn't like it. Bale was one of them. And it meant that he was wearing a custom pair of those boots. His custom pair had that sprint frame sole that you saw on the F50s, and he kept on going with that. With the launch of the X15.1 Plus Prime Knits, that was in December 2015, and he would look like he was wearing those a lot. But Adidas had made him a custom pair. So they had the sole plate of the F50, that sprint frame sole that he really liked, and they combined that and made it look like he was wearing a boot that he actually wasn't. Bale kept on wearing those boots for a long time. He really loved them. Adidas obviously didn't have to make too many kind of fake pairs for him, but he was wearing a boot in the Euros that actually came out in December 2015. So in the Euros, he was still wearing his X15 Plus Prime Knit looking boots. Every time he scored a goal, Adidas would flash up on their social media, Bale and these whole X16s and the Pure Chaos, all this kind of stuff. But the fact was, on the pitch, Bale was still wearing what looked like X15.1 Plus Prime Knits. There weren't even those. They had the sprint flame sole, and there were a lot of differences going on in the tech of the boots than actually what you would find in a retail version. Finally, after the Euros, Adidas managed to get Bale into what looked like their latest boots. But in fact, even though he was the face of the Pure Chaos range, he wasn't wearing those. He's wearing a boot that looks like the X16.1s. In fact, they aren't even that. It has this whole one-piece upper that you don't see on the retail version. The retail version has that stitching line on them. Bale's don't have that. And so Bale is still wearing his own custom ones with a different custom upper, with a custom sole plate, but it looks like he's wearing the X16s that Adidas want him in. Another player who likes to switch up his boots is Cristiano Ronaldo. So Ronaldo is the face of this Superfly, and Nike are going to want to have Ronaldo in the Superflies whenever they can. The trouble was, when they brought out the 2014 Superfly with the dynamic fit collar, Ronaldo didn't really like it that much. And what did Nike do? Well, they decided to make a shorter, lower cut version for him. So they still have him in the Superflies. He still has that upper, but he doesn't have quite that collar that was causing problems. He tried training in the Vapor 10s, and Nike knew they had a problem. They knew they needed to do something about it, so they made him his own custom versions. And all the boots that you've seen for Ronaldo that have been released in the Superfly, he has always had his own custom reduced height dynamic fit collar on them, those green ones they had for him, the special ones, and all of his different chapters of his stories, and the Quinientos and all those different boots that came out. They've made sure that have had that lower collar for him. Even the rare gold ones, there are only 333 pairs made, and Ronaldo's pair had that lower dynamic fit collar, but the retail ones, the ones that people actually picked up, they still didn't even lower the collar on those. A lot of people hoped they would, but they didn't. They had the higher collar on those 333 pairs that actually went to retail in the rare gold. And even with the Superfly 5, you'll have seen that Ronaldo has been wearing ones with a reduced height dynamic fit collar in those too, in the Elite Pack ones and in the Spark Brilliance ones that he wore initially, and his next custom pair will again have that reduced height collar. Another player who's had his own custom boots for a long time is Lionel Messi. Now Messi's been wearing what he wants for a long time, as I say. Long before he even had his own range of boots, he was wearing the F50s, and whilst Adidas would make him these special leather variants that weren't available to retail, they would be pushing the synthetic versions to people to buy. So there would be like the Piva de Barrios or the Marisarios and things like that. When he got to the 10.1 Messis, and they had leather uppers that Messi was wearing, but you had to buy the synthetic ones in the shops. Even in the F50s, he was wearing the leather versions of boots that you could only get synthetic versions of in the shops, like when they had those My Coach ones and everything in the F50s. Anyway, so the problem was that Messi preferred the leather over those Adidas synthetic uppers. And by the time the 15.1s rolled around, Adidas had finally solved the problem of what they were going to wear, and they had the Messi Touch upper. So they had Messi in a boot that he was liking and he was going to wear over the leather. Great news. Trouble was, 16.1 comes around and they launched the Pure Agilities. That's with the lace cover, and Messi doesn't like them. So it's got these 16.1s with the agility knit, and Messi's actually wearing the 16.1s. He isn't wearing the Pure Agilities, even though his name is on those, and you see all the advertising with Messi holding the 16.1s. He hasn't actually been going for those. Right guys, one more player to tell you about, and it's another big one, a lot of interesting stuff about what he is wearing, and that is Neymar. So you may have heard a lot about this. Neymar is the headline name for the Hypervenom range. Nike have one problem though. Neymar doesn't like the Hypervenoms anymore, or sock boots for that matter. He was really happy with the original Hypervenoms. He wanted to wear his Golden Dream pair at the World Cup, and he really liked those. The trouble started with the release of the Hypervenom 2s with the dynamic fit collar and that stiffer Hypervenom upper as well. So Neymar switched to wearing the Squadron Blue Electro Flare Mercurial Vapor 10, and Nike knew they had a problem and they decided to make a cover-up boot for him as well. So they made a switch, they made some custom boots. A lot of people think that he wears the Finish, but in fact he's wearing the Vapor 10, which has been camouflaged to look like it. So key features like the structure of the upper and flywire strings and things like that are actually incorporated in the paint job on the upper instead of actually being physically included, because Neymar doesn't like those bits of the technology. He much prefers the technology from the Vapor 10 boots, and he wants to stick with that. He's managed to stick with his own custom versions, so even when they brought out the Acedia Allegrias, you'll see him there promoting those, or the Neymar X Jordans, he's there promoting the Phantom version, but in fact he's wearing his Vapor 10 camouflage version that a lot of you might think is the Finish. Now, it's not to say that Nike didn't try Neymar in the reduced height collar boots. They tried to do exactly the same thing as they did for Ronaldo. They gave him those green Lightning Storm boots with a slightly lower dynamic fit collar. He still didn't like it. The problem wasn't just the collar, it was the upper as well. And when he switched and he wore these custom Vapor 10 boots, he scored 4 goals in one of his first games for Barcelona, and that was enough for him to say, hey, I'm never going back, I must use these boots, I much prefer them. And he can choose what he wears. And by the time he came back to training, he decided to opt for a Spark Brilliance pair of the Hypervenom Finish. Again, that's what they look like, a lot of people saying that, but in fact, if you look closely, they're again a camouflage Vapor 10, so Neymar again wears what he wants. So that's it. We're talking about 5 of the biggest players in the game, and they are wearing what boots they want, not what boots they've been told to by the brand. Have you seen any other big name players wearing something else? Let us know in the comments, guys. Go enjoy your football.